I'm bad with directions though. Let's see. As the player 2, we have the yellow Nuru Barrett. And as the player 1, because I got distracted on turn 1, we have the blue Tenri. It's Derrick, or also known as RPG Master. And yeah, that's about it. I'm very used to doing intros, guys. And this is a fog game, so they're not going to be aware of what they're doing, and I mean of what the opponent's doing until a while. But we get to see where they send stuff, and I think on this map there's one fortified village. There's a port which only builds amphibians and barges, I think. We've seen a bunch of games that kind of just evolve into a mid-giant bloodbath, but sometimes like there's also some night skirmishes that go after the sides, which I think is probably more efficient since the fortified village is on the side, but I didn't play this map, so I don't really know. The stronghold is in the middle, so maybe that's more efficient than a fortified village. What do you think?
Yep, sounds legit.
All right. Well, commander-wise, Tenri went for that fortified, I think. Yeah, and Nuru just stayed around the property to capture some stuff. We see, there we go, early yoink by Barrett. That's a very yoinked village, I suppose. It's gonna be, I mean, it's a bit annoying, but since the commander is over there, then it's not gonna be too hard to take back. It's still annoying, but maybe not the most worth yoink I've ever seen, because like you delayed your fortified village on the other hand, although maybe that's just Nuru doing a different capture path. But there is gonna build up a bit of groove on that village, and then we'll capture it with one of these swords and call it a day, probably. And we see Derrick has a balloon. Oh, Tenri wasn't actually high HP enough to decap that. So I guess it is a little more annoying than I gave it credit for.
There's definitely different builds coming out from the various players. Barrett has built a frog of all things, and a rifle, but doesn't have any air coverage or knights, so definitely not going for standard. In fact, I'd say Barrett hyper-accelerated their tech here. Meanwhile, Derrick is building more standard harpies and knights. Oh, a thief for Barrett. Barrett's trying to build every possible weird unit they can.
Yep. You might want like a mage somewhere in there, because I think that's like 2 air units from Derrick now, and Barrett doesn't have any anti-air whatsoever. I guess Nuru can be your anti-air, but at 200 charge, Nuru is a little slower than what you'd like for reliable anti-air.
Yeah, Nuru would not be my first choice of commander on most maps. This map, though, is pretty big, has a lot of economy. I don't know how it plays, but if it gets to a hyper late game, maybe we'll see Nuru activate, but I think I would rather be playing Tenri right now.
Well, you are a bit more known for your Tenri, I suppose, as well. I like putting like dogs on mountains in fog. It's very like, it gives you so much vision, and I mean it's one of those things where you don't really appreciate how important it is until like you actually play fog a bunch, because there's a lot of vision. Like vision is very important. It's even more evident in like this month's pool, where we have watchtowers which give a lot of vision. But looks like
This is a really nice attack.
Yeah, Derrick is going for a very blind center push, but also has a lot of troops backing it up. So sometimes in fog, even if you don't have information, if you put enough units behind your push, then your opponent might not be ready. I mean, might not have the units ready to defend.
Using the frog and the rifle to kill a sword. That is a creative way to get rid of some enemy units.
I mean, it is the best way to get rid of enemy units. Anything that involves frog, really. So, you were saying like Nuru is not your choice for this map. Do you prefer Nuru for her tier 1 or tier 2? I mean there, I guess.
I still think Nuru is one of the weakest commanders in the game right now. I also don't think Tenri is one of the strongest, but she at least has some plays. And against Nuru, I feel like Tenri's weaknesses don't matter because Nuru has the same or worse weaknesses. So I would favor Tenri. As far as tier 1 or tier 2, to answer your question, I think if you're using Nuru's tier 1, you better be winning off that.
I see. So I guess tier 2 is is the more consistent thing, I suppose. Derrick has a good memory, I think. They're doing a dog drop off next to the sword, I think, to trigger a crit, but they didn't have vision on the sword, so they have a nice read on where Barrett's units are.
Well, if they saw the sword last turn, there's that neat little thing where it'll show its previous position.
Yep. But I don't think that was the case. So maybe they just counted movements and stuff. Or maybe they just dropped the dog and went, oh, a sword. Nice.
Gee, if only we could ask Barrett.
Well, unfortunately, Derrick isn't in this call, but...
Yeah, it's a shame.
Looks like they're both pretty deep in enemy territory, and Barrett's gonna lose one archer. I'm sure they wanted to resign after that.
Yeah, I mean, that's basically Barrett's commander right there, the archer.
Yeah. They have a frog for the emotional support, so maybe they won't surrender this very turn. But that's still pretty rough.
I really like how well Derrick has been targeting these villages. It's been some very nice attacks across the map.
Yeah, there's a lot of intent behind their attacks. And they have the composition to reflect it. They have a bunch of knights to hit villages, and then they have a bunch of dogs to get visions for the night. Then they have the harpies just in case the knights have to fight anything, and then they also have balloons, which are a nice addition, I guess.
You know, starting to see Barrett have a really nice counterattack here.
Yeah.
Barrett's got to be careful not to overstay their welcome.
There's always that question in fog of how do you know you're overextending when you don't see your opponent's army? And you kind of have to get a feeling for that. I mean, so far, Derrick has a lot of control of the map. And looks like they are judging that this is as far as they're gonna go. Even Mage heals Tenri here. I think
that was a pretty good choice because Derrick's probably expecting Barrett's going to attack soon. They read that really well.
Yep. And I mean, Barrett does have more fun units, let's say, more tech, as you put it. But it's not very mobile. And I guess this balloon now is going to change that a little bit, but the frog, the rifle, and like
A little help here?
Nuru is also like one of the main units. Ooh, spawns a mage actually.
Was that a tier 1?
Yep. Yeah, you don't see any like visual effects on the barracks, so it's tier 1.
So Barrett used a tier 1 groove to spend money to summon a mage to kill a unit worth about as much as a mage. I don't know about that.
I mean, I think it makes sense if you think the opponent only has one balloon, because Derrick has been like using their mobility really well so far. Unfortunately, we know that Derrick has more than one balloon.
I like how Derek's using the low health Harpy to sort of scout and get vision, but I'm not sure about that Tenri position.
It will be fine. Look. They mage heal the full HP. I mean, not quite full HP Tenri, but they mage heal like 2 or 3%.
Did Derek just throw the game? I guess we'll find out in a moment.
Did they pull the T word?
The time key. I don't think time key's overextended in like a few years, though. I don't know how long we can keep using that. Well, I guess they sort of did in the fog match against me on stream, but that was a silly game and that doesn't count.
I mean,
for those who don't know, there's a phrase pulling a time key, which was partially endorsed by Time Key themselves after they overextended in a series of tournament matches and turned winning positions into immediate losses.
Yep. And I mean, Derek certainly has a winning position here. This is very winning, I'd say. They have a lot more units than Barrett at this point, and they also control a lot more of the map than Barrett.
Yeah, I think if you want to build pure tech, you have to have some kind of genius plan. Because knights take villages, harpies make you lose unless you build mages. You know, these are the bread and butter of the mid game, and Barrett just didn't really make any.
Yeah, and also like there's a bunch of tech that only really works with other units, like frogs. They work when you have like other units to take advantage of them. Rifles, they need other units to get vision, and they need units to get vision, they need units to protect them, and they need units to transport them because they have not the best mobility. And that's like a lot of units you need to make the units you're building work.
I think the frog has just been supporting the rifle and then the thief, so it's been like an extra movement. But considering how much the frog costs, I don't know if it's really gotten its value yet just by moving the rifles and the thieves a little bit extra.
Yeah, the frog has been a tech at this point.
It's been a one square return wagon, effectively.
And I mean, at this point, Derek has like many more units, so it will feel like Derek has the counter units to everything perfectly. But what is actually happening is that Derek just has more units everywhere, so Barrett can't really expand. They can't really expand vision, they can't really get economy, and at this point, it's very. I mean, Derek is like pushing quite hard into this area of the map and getting closer to the stronghold. But it's pretty interesting that they're going like sort of above the stronghold at this point and not just straight for it. They are being very careful and to like go for the army as they go. along the way, instead of just like tunnel visioning on the strongholds directly.
That merfolk did a good bit of damage as a discount archer. I guess that's why Barrett didn't give up when the archer died. You see, the merfolk was...
Oh, wait, that frog tried to pull the thief into the water to kill it and get the money? But it doesn't work that way, because the sea gets the money in that case. The terrain kills the thief, not you.
I just want to interject. I play on handheld on my Switch, so I thought that was a beach tile.
Oh, well. Regardless, that's a very sad thief. That's a very sad frog, and I mean, maybe not frog, but that's also a very sad Barrett in this case.
I feel like there's some sort of fable style tale here, the frog and the thief. Why did you pull me into the water? It's in my nature. Saykoya told me
Because
to.
you only have 3 moves and you were too slow. Or something. I guess you should have boarded the wagon the balloon when you still could, or something. Is the lesson.
Derrick is playing a dangerous game. They're forcing Barrett to fight with less money. The idea being that Barrett will eventually lose. But Barrett doesn't have too much less money, and you're right on top of a barracks. This is kind of giving Barrett the chance to come back a little bit.
I will say though that Tenri hasn't grooved this entire time, so Tenri is probably approaching tier 2 by that point.
A little help here?
Yeah, she's got it.
Yeah, it has tier 2, so as soon as Nuru, like, oh, that's a very nice, that's like the best value Nuru can get with a groove.
That's a good use of tier 1.
So yes, as soon as Nuru steps into a remotely dangerous position, Tenri is gonna just explode. I mean, not Tenri, but Tenri is gonna make Nuru explode.
Well, I don't think so. I don't think Derrick has the tools to kill Nuru right now. I think, if anything, Derrick has overstayed their welcome.
No, but Tenri tier 2 is so crazy.
It's so, like, we disagree about this. I think it's bad.
I mean, it's bad because of the charge, but once you have it, it's crazy.
You'll have to explain that one to me. For those who don't know, Tenri Tier 2 is a longer range Tenri groove, but it's exactly the same, except it will push units next to where the unit lands. So how is it crazy?
Alright, so Tenri has the best push out of every pushing groove, because the push also affects allies, which that's the first good thing. You can push your own units when you land. But also Tenri groove has a bit of damage on the shockwave, and that shockwave also damages allies. So it is absolutely crazy to kill commanders.
I'm a little bit worried. Barrett is enabling a 3-side attack with Tenri groove.
Yeah, you can do something like you send a knight into a commander, and then you Tenri groove like a unit that's far away behind that knight, and then the knight will just die and deal 20 collision damage to the commander. So you've not used any sides yet, and you've dealt 50 damage.
Okay, that does sound pretty good.
Looks like something's gonna happen. We see the witch hex, we see the knight hitting Nuru, and are we gonna see a Tenri groove? Or are we just gonna see Tenri hit Nuru from the top?
Get out of my sight.
Yeah. Tenri groove is just not...
Wow, Tenri tier 2 is so broken. Look at this. Nuru basically died with one side open.
Tenri didn't groove.
No.
I think that this game kind of proves my point a little bit about these two commanders. That they're still trying to find their place in Wargroove too. But great game to Barrett and Derrick. I think Barrett just went too tech heavy early on, whereas Derrick played normally, and well, they took villages, got more money, and were able to win fights. I don't know what else to say about it.
Yeah, I'll interject here, and there's a couple of things I noticed while watching this replay. I lost a bunch of like cheap units early on that I shouldn't have, so there's a couple sword kills that just died. There are definitely some villages I could have grabbed earlier that I suspected my Derrick would like mirror me trying to do the yoink. I thought they would do the yoink on my side. Obviously, losing the thief like that was actually like a big mental blow. I was feeling very far behind at that point because I was just like, oh, I lost like 700 gold right there. So that sucked.
Yeah, the frog wasn't very like active on the front as well. It was mainly just trying to get the thief back, and then thief died on the way back. So unfortunate.
Yeah, it has some cool utility, like you get to reinforce a bit faster, and I kept thinking that Derrick would push into my south side where the frog was, so then I would get to use it, and that's where my rifle was down there a lot of the time too. And of course, Derrick just kept attacking in the place where my frog and my rifle weren't, so...
I will say a very good Tenri counterplay. Tenri never even got to groove the entire game.
Yeah, but anyway, thank you too for commentating that. That was a fun one to watch. Let's go on to the next one.